Aikido, the martial art of peace. It is known for its philosophy of redirecting the enemy's energy and neutralizing the opponent without causing them any harm. Aikido students will tell you that you will develop the fighting skills of a samurai, and if you learn to harness the Aiki, you will have the abilities of a Jedi. Aikido has had some success teaching the masses when Lawrence Fishburne's character Morpheus made it look cool in The Matrix, and Steven Seagal used it in all of his movies to become an action movie star in the early 90s. But despite all of this publicity, Aikido is a bit of a laughingstock in the martial arts community. In many lists, you will find that Aikido is considered the most useless, the most ineffective martial art. Why is that? What's up, y'all? My name is Prince, and I'm on a journey to help people find enlightenment through martial arts and Eastern spirituality. This video, we're going to take a look at the problem with Aikido because this art seems to be all over the place. You have a really popular channel called Martial Arts Odyssey where Rojas studied Aikido for years, even running his own dojo, only to ditch it after a number of situations where his training just didn't work out. And then on the other hand, you have another popular channel called Aikido Flow, where these guys talk about using their Aikido in self-defense situations like working event security and even working the doors at clubs and bars in the UK. So, why is it effective for one person and not the other when they both appear to be actively trying to pressure test their art? So to look at this, I think we should start at the very beginning. Aikido is based on a form of jujitsu known as Daito-ryo Aikijutsu that was studied by the founder of Aikido, O-sensei Morihei Ueshiba. O-sensei was initially teaching his take on Aikijutsu that he learned from his teacher, which was primarily a grappling art that had throws and joint locking as the bulk of the curriculum. Now, at some point, O-sensei's skills surpassed what this art was supposed to be, as he appeared to have this uncanny ability to enter and exit his opponent's range, turn them, and almost lead their actions with his mind. Nothing like this art he was performing had ever been seen in Japan, and this is how Aikido earned its place as a treasured art in Japan. Now, the thing I mentioned about O-sensei's skills is something that I think contributes the most to the problem with Aikido, but I'll tell you why after I tell you a story about my experience with Aikido. Otherwise, what I'm about to tell you, it won't make much sense. Alright, so about 4 years ago, I had this crazy idea that I was going to become a stuntman. So the 3 things that need to be on your resume when you break into the movie game as a stuntman are fights, flips, and falls. Now, I knew 2 things about Aikido. There were a lot of choreographed training routines, and you had to know how to take a fall. So I got on Google to find the closest Aikido school to me in North Nashville, and I decided that I'd give it a shot. Now, really quick, I'm going to assume that someone is watching this video and you're seeing me for the first time. So my background, I primarily have trained in Tai Chi with my teacher in Nashville who did Shuai Jiao or Chinese wrestling, and he competed regularly in Sanda tournaments. So it wasn't, like what you normally think of when you see watered down Tai Chi at the YMCA for senior citizens. After that, I started learning Sam Chin's Ili Chin, and it's been a long, slow grind, but I enjoy it and I hope to start a school one day. So back to the story. So I go into this Aikido school, and the place is beautiful. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I've ever seen an ugly Aikido school. They tend to look nice. The people training there are super nice. There's 2 instructors at this school, but one didn't arrive until the class was almost over. And I think he was actually the senior instructor and he was working late. Now, it didn't matter because the guy teaching the class, look, he was great. His stuff was awesome. He was a really big guy, of course. And I'm small. So he may not have been as big as I thought, but he was big to me. Either way, I had the feeling that he could probably use this stuff if he were in a situation out on the street where he had to actually defend himself. Now, the students training there, on the other hand, look, I didn't get that feeling from the students at the school. I mean, everyone was cool and super helpful. I mean, in general, I think Aikido attracts a certain type of person. And I don't think there are too many douchey people who are gonna last long at an Aikido school. Now look, I said the instructor who taught the class was really good. And I mentioned his size because, well, I felt kind of like the reason he would be able to use these techniques is because, one, his experience with the style, but also because of his size and his strength. Now, the problem with that is, O-sensei was a small person. The magic in this art is supposed to be that it doesn't rely on brute force. And if you're gonna have to use some muscle and angles to make it work, why not just go train judo if you want to wear a gi and say Japanese things while you throw people around? So this kind of brings us back to someone that I mentioned earlier, Steven Seagal. Now, I don't know how much Steven Seagal contributed to the popularity of Aikido, but I think there was a time when some people viewed Aikido much differently when Seagal was at the peak of his career as one of Hollywood's top movie heroes. It's led to people asking maybe Steven Seagal practiced a different type of Aikido, or if he somehow modernized the curriculum to make it a more effective art. Now look, I am not an expert on Aikido, but Rojas from Martial Arts Odyssey did a video on this very topic a few years back, and he arrived at the conclusion that Steven Seagal's Aikido only looks different because of his size. Again, if we're gonna make size and strength important to do this art, why not just go train judo? Something must be lacking in what Aikido students are learning and doing versus what O-sensei was actually doing and maybe teaching his students. So that brings me back to my visit to the Aikido dojo a few years back. Look, after the class wrapped up and the students finished cleaning the dojo, the senior teacher asked me the usual stuff. What made me check out the school? When could they expect to see me again? Oh, and what other arts had I trained? It's now, when I mentioned to him that I trained Tai Chi, the teacher's ears kind of perked up and he started to ask me all kinds of questions about Tai Chi and what I knew of internal martial arts in general. I kind of wasn't expecting to be giving this senior instructor a lesson on Chinese internal martial arts. I thought I was going there to learn from him. So what surprised me next was he asked if my Tai Chi teacher, Brian, was taking students or if he'd be cool with him dropping by for a class or a lesson. So where this was all going is that he realized that I was learning real Tai Chi and he wanted to try it out. Now, what he explained to me is that all the techniques and stuff that we were practicing in class, that's just the curriculum for earning a black belt in the art. The black belt is just a sign of making it through the curriculum, but real Aikido doesn't happen until after you have the foundation. The problem is that the real Aikido seems to be some closely guarded secret that only a select group of instructors is willing to pass on. He said that when you see the high-level instructors in Japan in action, they don't do the techniques. They just move and they put people on the ground or send them flying. Now, this whole thing, it was really blowing my mind that you have this art called Aikido, but people aren't learning about the Aiki part. And I wonder why that instructor was so interested in learning from my Tai Chi teacher. And well, it turns out that O-sensei spent some time in China around the time of World War II. It was after his return from China that his Aikijitsu evolved into what would be known as Aikido. So it's possible that O-sensei had actually studied Bagua Zhang and a little Xing Yi while he was in China. Now, just because of the relationship between China and Japan back then, Japanese nationalism never would have allowed O-sensei's school to admit that his new schools actually came from studying with the Chinese. So after all of that, it kind of made sense why an Aikido teacher was asking me about studying with my Tai Chi teacher. Learning Aiki seems to be some closely guarded secret, but it turns out to be the same thing that Ichuan schools refer to as Hunyan Li, or Tai Chi schools called Peng, or ward off skill, or Tai Chi energy. So the problem with Aikido is the same thing that plagues too many of these internal martial arts. Look, there's too many people that are keeping secrets and too many people faking their skills to keep up with the few people who might actually have some skill. But I mean, hey guys, look, this was a lot of fun, and I'm going to be making more of these kinds of videos in a series where I address the problems that I see in traditional martial arts. Now I have another video planned on Aikido, so be on the lookout for it really soon. But hey, that's all I have for this video, so thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and I'll see you next time.